Hello everyone, Rachel here. Whoever would have thought that a dream could have been wrapped up in a paper towel? Today I'm very excited to bring you a really fun story and a video about the care of climbing roses in your cottage garden. I hope you enjoy. Several years ago, my dad sent some little cuttings from his red rambling rose that he had in his garden. I've always loved it, and roses are just one of those classic plants for any cottage garden. And so one day my brother was going to make a trip up here to Oklahoma to visit, and my dad sent some cuttings along with him. And when my brother showed up, he handed me a damp paper towel filled with little 8-inch sticks, 6 to 8-inch sticks that were cuttings of roses. And I thought, oh, this is very exciting. I have no idea if they're gonna work, but I mean, we can but try. So I took those little sticks and stuck them in the ground, and you'll soon see 3 years later what has come from those small beginnings. So I called my dad the other day to find out what his secret was for creating these little cuttings from his rose bushes and propagating them elsewhere in the garden. So he told me what his tricks were so that I could propagate this rose and have it in other places in the yard. He said to start with about a 6 to 8-inch piece, about the size of a straw, and to be sure that it had buds, places for the leaves to come out. His next tip was to take those little cuttings, dip them in water, and then dip the ends into a white powder, which was a root stimulator, an enzyme that helps them to grow. And the other thing he said is to be sure they were right side up. And I have no idea if those sticks that he gave me all those years ago, if I planted them right side up or not. But he said stick them into that root stimulator and then put them in water and plant them in a loamy, sandy soil, and probably about 75% of them would take root. I had this red rambler rose that he gave me along with an antique pink rose that was my great-grandmother's, and we just stuck them all in a row in the ground, and it worked. And now I've got both of those roses in my garden. So after you stick those little sticks in the ground, you wait a little while, this is something like what you should get. You can tell that everywhere there was a bud from that little crevice, branches are growing and little limbs are beginning to form with tiny buds at the top. I hope you enjoy coming along with me today as we do some gardening. First, we'll start off with some pruning just to clean the rose up a bit. Then we will tie up the heavy boughs so that it can continue growing and spreading to cover the trellis. We'll clean the bed, and then last of all, we will go find some bright, pretty annuals to add to the bottom. Let's get gardening. Here you see this gorgeous, romantic, rambling climber in all of its glory. It's 3 years now, and you can tell that it has, in some places, already passed the top of the trellis and is peeking over the fence. This is what I mean when I say a dream came wrapped up in a paper towel. I have been dreaming of having an English cottage garden since I was a teenager, studying books, magazines, and now Pinterest for ideas, and it is wonderful to have a little piece of that in my own garden in our first house. On the side here you can see how far those canes stick out, and it's nice they're thornless, or those would be some pretty bad shin slappers. Then you can see too how far those heavy roses are pulling the vine away from the trellis. So first we will trim off the cane so we can reach the rose, and then pin up those gorgeous boughs loaded with roses so it can keep spreading and just cover that whole fence. I am so excited about this. Now the tools that we'll need to pin up these heavily weighed down boughs of roses are very simple. Just little zip ties. These are quite long, so I'll end up trimming off the ends. They don't show at all, and that is actually how this rose is anchored to the trellis you see behind me here. And then for trimming off those unsightly canes near the bottom of the bush, just a good pair of sharp pruning shears will do the trick. Let's get started.
Okay, the work is all done and now to play. Old Blue and I head off to the nursery. As I have said before, the only thing better than flowers is more flowers. Now to plant. One of the most distinct trademarks of the cottage garden style is how full everything is. And going along with that, I really love to fill in covering any bare soil or, like you see here, the shins on the rows. I do wish I knew the name of this red rambler. We just call it our Red Lady. She does so well, and I can't wait to see that whole fence covered. Just give me another couple years.
I'm very grateful to my dad for giving me those sad little sticks that he gave me 3 years ago and how well they've turned out. I hope more than anything that this video has inspired you to try something in your garden. It doesn't have to be a cottage garden style, but whatever style you like. So I really hope that this has inspired you and you are going to give something a try. So leave your comments below and let me know, what are your dreams? What are some things that you're trying? Thank you so much for joining me as we worked on cleaning up this climbing red rose bush. I will see you next time. Happy gardening!